Welcome, my friends, to the Bob and Brad podcast, produced by Bob and Brad, the two most famous physical therapists on the internet. I am Bob, exactly one half of the Bob and Brad team. And today, my partner in crime is actually
Mike Keenet's PT assistant.
Right, no Brad. But we're going to talk about with Ross Clifford. He is the author of the book. Mike, want to say it?
Build your own bulletproof body, all body weight exercises or stretches and foam rolling as well.
You're going to find this really interesting. Here we go. Welcome to the program, Ross Clifford. So I'm a big fan of the book, Build Your Own Bulletproof Body. We'll have a link below. All right, we're going to start on how to bulletproof your hips.
So what are some common hip problems that these exercises may help with?
Well, I mean, going back to my original story for writing the book, so this idea of hip impingement, in particular, a lot of people spend time sitting during the day, so you get shortening of the hip flexors, you get weakening of the hip extensors and the glutes, and you also get shortening of the hamstrings as well, which can be a factor in back pain. So really, the exercises within this section will target stretching out the hip flexors, strengthening up the glutes, actively working the hamstrings at the pelvic origin to really try and address some of that imbalance that can be found, and as well also looking at some of the lower back muscles to try and make sure that the hip has its full range of mobility.
Gotcha.
So what are the goals of the bodyweight exercises prescribed for the hips?
Kind of all that.
Definitely to restore range of motion. So that's a key factor. And going back to Bob's question there about osteoarthritis on a previous episode, we've got this issue with the fact that people are underusing their joints, and that may be a factor in osteoarthritis. So just mobilizing joints, restoring key movements, lubricating. Remember, the motion is lotion, and then also strengthening up some of those weak muscles, particularly around the glutes.
So again, there are many exercises in the book. We're going to go over 5. So we'll start with the knee circle. Again, Mike will demonstrate.
Yeah, I'll demonstrate, I guess.
Absolutely. So, well, it's a good one to demonstrate, Mike. It's a nice, easy one. And although it's called knee circles, it might mislead you to think it's a knee exercise, but actually we're basically circumducting the hip. So this is a motion at the hip where you take it in a rounded motion. The diagram in the book is a little bit like a dog urinating up against a lamppost.
Yep.
Or fire hydrant, I guess, for you guys.
Right.
So it's the old comic cartoon version, isn't it?
Exactly.
But, it's that sort of movement. But the idea is you're working because of that position that utilizes gravity, so that in order to circumduct the hip out, you have to work the gluteal muscles in addition to stretching the hip flexors and the hip adductors as well. And again, that's a key format of bodyweight exercises, that you're doing simultaneous multiple movements to really maximize your workout.
Do you want to talk about the benefits of your deep squat position stretch?
Yeah, well, the deep squat is really the holy grail of the book. So if there's anybody out there who cannot achieve a deep squat, that should be your life mission, assuming that you are medically well enough to do so, because I have to look at pictures from other cultures where the chair does not exist.
Right.
So in history, the chair is a relatively new phenomenon for the average person. Only kings and queens had thrones once upon a time, and everybody else squatted on the floor and sat in the mud. But now we all sit at this nice 90-degree angle at the hip, 90-degree angle at the knee. But in other cultures, there are people in their 70s, 80s, and 90s who can still do a deep squat, sitting around a campfire, eating, talking with friends. That is the position. So there is no reason other than perhaps you have lost the ability to do that movement. So I do often argue with some patients when they say, "Well, I've sort of seized up." Well, you probably seized up because you haven't been taking your body through that. But again, just a word of caution: if you're not medically able, then seek professional guidance. But most people would benefit if they can move towards doing a deep squat for hip flexion, for knee flexion, and for what's called dorsiflexion at the ankle as well.
So I got to ask, if you can't squat deep, what's the best way to obtain that?
We're hinting that neither of us can.
Yeah, right.
Well, I think you two should both get yourself a copy of Bulletproof Bodies for a start, without a doubt. But yeah, I mean, squat as deep as you are able to.
Right.
So there are sort of things you can do. You could go through a series of going around your home and finding chairs or seats of different heights. So you could start off, on a dining chair, and then you can move to a drumming stool if you've got one, or something that's maybe height adjustable. And just practice sitting on chairs of lower height. Another little cheat that you'll see a lot of therapists or personal trainers use in gyms when they're helping people is they often put a wedge under the heel.
Sure.
So they get people to, disc weights, and they'll put those on the floor, a phone book, or, a good quality textbook, or a copy of Bulletproof Bodies, perhaps. Or, if you really need a big wedge, maybe buy 5 copies of the book.
There we go.
And so there are cheats around it, but my advice is squat as deep as you are physically able to.
Gotcha.
In a safe and controlled way.
Yeah, I found that I go and I stand in a doorway and I grab the frame and then I do it that way, because my problem is my ankles are so tight. Once I get certain depth, I'll go backwards. So as long as I'm holding on, I can actually stretch that way.
Actually me too.
That's good. Yeah, that's great. So you're supporting your upper body. And again, it sounds like you would really benefit, Mike, from having that bit of a wedge under the heel.
Mm-hmm.
And then as you get better, you gradually reduce the size of that wedge. And that's really the purpose of any exercise, is start at the edge of your comfort zone and gradually take yourself out of that comfort zone in a controlled and safe way.
Right.
All right. Next,
hamstring
exercise,
stretching.
Hamstring. Yep.
Well, it does exactly as it says on the label, really. It's a static stretch for the hamstring. The one we've put in there is quite a basic one.
Right.
I think some people might refer to it as the hurdler's stretch,
Yes.
the hurdles,
Yep.
As an athletic track event. But the idea is you isolate the hamstring on one leg before you then swap to the other leg. And that allows you to really focus on the difference between the two legs. But ultimately, as I say, we spend a lot of time sitting, particularly with a degree of knee flexion, and the hamstrings will habitually shorten.
Gotcha.
So you can't go wrong with a nice controlled stretch of the hamstrings.
The next one you discuss is the groin stretch. Full disclosure, when I played American football, we used to call this the butterfly stretch.
Yeah, absolutely. So you've got the butterfly wings opening there. So that's a great audio description there. And so effectively, this again is a safe way of doing it. So you're seated. And one of the things that I find with adults is that they don't know how to sit cross-legged anymore. They just don't have that ability. They'll try and get into a cross-legged position and they'll just want to fall backwards. Sure. Because they've lost that mobility around the low back and the hips. And that's why we put this particular butterfly stretch in for the hip and the groin, is that it actually requires you to start stretching out the low back as well.
Sure.
And so the idea, again, with the Bulletproof bodyweight exercise is that it uses multiple different areas in any one exercise.
Get that fascia out of the back. So how about next one, glute stretch?
Yeah, so the glute stretch is a real winner. You can never go wrong with stretching out the glutes. It always feels quite nice to stretch. Yeah. With the one we've put in, which I think is the one with the slight twist in the body.
Yep.
So again, we added that one as opposed to the classic figure of 4 when you're laid on your back.
Right.
But we added this one in because you get that spinal rotation as well. And again, once you've had that stretch for a few seconds, you might find that you get a little bit of a pop or click in the low back as it releases. And again, everybody likes the sound and the feel of that. So you just get that benefit of the rotation of the spine, the flexion of the hip, and the stretch of the glutes as well.
So are there any other thoughts on stretches or exercises you can do for bulletproofing your hips?
Well, I'll come back to the frog stance again. Although I mentioned it in the previous episode linked to the shoulder, it's that old adage of multiple body parts being used at any one time with body weight exercise. And the idea of being able to do the frog stance is that you force your elbows into the inside of your thighs and really open up. And then as you're able to safely do, you bring your weight forward onto your hands, which then just pushes the hips out a little bit. And that was one of my key exercises that took me away from having 3 years of hip locking to, after 6 weeks of doing that particular exercise, very little issues with the left hip now.
All right. You talked me into it. All right. Thank you for taking the time to demonstrate, discuss all these exercises. And again, we want to mention the book. Mike,
do you have a website or anything where people can reach you at? Or social media?
I want to say yes, but I don't know what it is. Ashley would know. But
we'll put it in the description box below if you just want to email it to us.
Right.
Yeah. We'll send you something to post-production.
There we go.
That sounds good.
All right. Any final thoughts you want to give, Ross?
I just want to say thank you both for your time. It's been a pleasure to talk to you both, and I really appreciate this platform and this conversation that we've had today. So thank you very much.
Oh, it's a terrific book. So I suggest
thank you. Very
everybody
kind.
get one. Yeah. Okay.
You've got one already. What more could you ask for?
That's right.
We need 2.